This is episode 303 of Jumblethink.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Jumblethink, where we interview dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers all about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can take your own dreams and ideas and turn them into reality too. Our guest on today's show is Palak Shah. More about Palak in a moment. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, if you've never subscribed to Jumblethink, head on over to your favorite place to listen to podcasts, search for Jumblethink, and click that subscribe button. While you're there, leave us a rating and review too. Now let's jump into today's conversation. Hey there, welcome to Jumblethink. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have a very cool show lined up for you today. It was recorded at PodMax. PodMax is this amazing event in Trenton, New Jersey, where they bring in a bunch of entrepreneurs to meet with a bunch of podcasters to tell their stories. This specific PodMax event was tailored around the real estate market, whether it was buying your first house or how you can use it as an investment strategy for retirement. We covered a whole bunch of different topics. So what we did is we created a theme week here at Jumblethink all about real estate. So this week we're launching 5 new episodes from PodMax all about real estate. We did release one episode a little bit early, a couple weeks ago, with Alex Felice. Super cool conversation. You should go check that out if you missed it. So today our guest is Palak Shah. Let me tell you a little bit about Palak. Palak is the founder and owner of Open Spaces Capital that generates close to $1 million in revenue. An engineer by trade, after the birth of her 2 kids, she decided to make the move to entrepreneurship to be able to spend more time with her children. Though Palak has invested in real estate for many years, in her first 3 years investing full-time, she purchased, renovated, rented, and refinanced properties, creating a $4 million rental portfolio. It is now her passion to empower other women to pursue entrepreneurship through real estate investing, to live an empowered and financially free life through Open Spaces Women. Let's jump into this conversation with Palak Shah. We are here with Palak Shah. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
You are from Philadelphia?
Yes.
Yeah, and we're here at PodMax in Trenton, New Jersey. My first time to Trenton.
I think mine too. No, maybe I've been here.
I've been through on Amtrak, but whatever. I've never really been here.
Yeah, I never really walked around in Trenton before.
I'm excited to have you on and talk about your journey into business and how you went from being a mechanical engineer to a real estate investor. Crazy stories, I'm sure. I'm excited to have you on to chat about that. First off, I want you to take a moment and share with us a little bit about what you do. What your specific area of real estate investment is about.
So, my business, Open Spaces Capital. Through Open Spaces Capital, we invest in single-family rentals and smaller multifamily rentals. So we do value-add investing. We purchase distressed properties in and around Philadelphia. We renovate them, rent them out, and then refinance to pull the cash out, and then keep growing the portfolio that way.
So how many projects have you guys worked on?
So we have, our portfolio is worth about $4 million in Philadelphia right now. This year our revenue was about $1 million.
Okay. All right. And when you say we, is it your house?
I say we because a lot of people help me.
Yeah. We all need a lot of help sometimes.
Hire a lot of different people,
Yeah.
but it is my husband and I.
Okay.
Although my husband maintains his full-time job, and
Okay.
I'm the operations of the business.
I want to back up before we go really deep into your specific area of expertise, which is women and investing and much more. And we're going to talk about those. But I want to hear a little bit about your origin story. I was reading through your bio, looking at your site, and reading through other pieces of information I found online. And it was talking about how you went from a mechanical engineer into a real estate investor. That seems a pretty big leap. Tell us about that journey of going from where you probably had dreamed of being into an industry that maybe was one that was unexpected.
So I was a mechanical engineer, and I climbed the corporate ladder for about 17 years.
Wow.
And it was actually great. I liked my job. I just didn't know there was another option out there.
Okay.
So I was a subject matter expert in a niche topic nobody outside of the industry cares about. So I used to travel all over the world. My job was to explain to CEOs of companies how they could change their process to improve their bottom line.
Okay.
And I loved it until we had kids. And so when we had kids, I realized that I felt like a lie was sold to me. We are told to build your career first and get financially stable before you have kids. But then when you climb the corporate ladder at the end, you don't have a lot of time left for the family.
Yeah.
So I used to leave my house while my kids were still sleeping. And then I would come home just in time to put them to bed.
Wow.
And that is when I was even in the country. I was traveling a lot
Yeah.
too. So I went up to my boss's office and I was like, something has to change. I want more time with my children. And that was just not possible given the role I had. And also just mechanical engineering is a very conservative industry still.
Yeah, yeah.
And working from home and flexibility and understanding the needs of a family with two professional people and little children is just not there.
Yeah.
So that request wasn't very well received, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
So I spent months in turmoil, and then my husband and I decided it was time to make the change and become a single income family.
Wow.
And then we had a few rentals already by then,
Yeah.
and I decided I was going to take that and really grow the real estate side of the business while spending time with my kids. So it was a challenge, self-imposed challenge.
Well, and I think there are a lot of families struggling with that same kind of
Right.
question. I know I talk to a lot of women, whether it's through the show or, of course, my wife, who we have two little kids.
Yeah.
And there's this divide. Well, there's the desire to work and the joy. I'm finding that a lot of women are saying, this is okay, but I really want to be home with my kids. I
Right.
love doing this. And it's just like cultural divide that says, well, you should be able to do both. But I love that you took the risk in saying, something's got to change.
Right.
I'm not going to accept the status quo. And you found a solution to say, you know what, I still have a lot to offer to the world from a business standpoint,
Right.
but I'm going to do it on my terms. And you created the picture for you.
Right.
So talk to us. You go to the boss, and the boss is like, this isn't going to work.
Right.
You make the decision to say, I'm not okay with that. How did you figure out the next step of painting that new picture where you say, we're going to be a single income family, but we can do this other area, and I can evolve and grow into that and do that and build a business. How did you go from employee to entrepreneur?
That's a really good question. And to back up on what you said earlier, I feel like a lot of professional couples in corporate with young children, they feel trapped
Yeah.
and stressed in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't realize living in that 9-to-5 world that there aren't just two options out there, which is either be stressed and be a corporate couple or have one person stay at home with the kids. We don't know that there's a third option out there, which is to build a business while spending time with the kids. And we don't realize that. So that's really interesting that you bring it up. And what was your question? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about how did you figure out that is the solution for you and for your family? Because not every family, there are the families that go, okay, for the first 5 years, we're going to stay home with the kids. And then, and I even know some dads that are taking that role of saying, you know what,
Sure.
you have a great job, you really love what you're doing, I'm going to stay home.
Right.
Or the wife tells the husband, you're going to stay home, or whatever that is.
Sure.
How did you figure out what was right for you and your family?
Yeah, and you're right. It isn't a gender thing. It just was a need that I personally had.
Yeah.
I had this visceral need to be around my kids. There
Yeah.
was no analysis or explaining or spreadsheet that I could make or fear that was allowing me to get over this visceral need.
Yeah.
So it was so strong that I just had to make it happen.
It wasn't okay to keep the status quo.
Right. It has to, I feel like when they talk about your why, it has to be so strong that the status quo will completely crush you.
Yeah.
That's, unless it gets to that point, you're not going to make the change. And
so you get to a point where you go, the status quo isn't going to work, and you come up with a new solution.
right.
Talk to us about that.
So before I had quit my job, what we were doing was saving up whatever we could and buying one property, putting it as a down payment, getting conventional mortgage, buying a property, renting it out. And we started really understanding the impact of investing in real estate through that. So when I quit my job, I had to figure out how to keep doing that as a single income family.
Yeah.
And the big thing is the difference between being an employee versus being an investor or an entrepreneur is you really have to stop with the employee mindset.
Okay.
You really have to, figure out nobody's going to make these decisions for you anymore. You're the CEO or the investor. You make the decision and you move your company forward. So just, realizing the importance of that. And then we had to figure out a strategy where we suddenly became a single income family, how we were going to come up with the seed money again and again to invest in real estate.
Yeah.
So value add investing is what came up to be the best solution for us. And I wanted to build something. I wanted income and wealth building. I did not want to just have income. So for example, flipping wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
So narrow down the strategy from the perspective of why I'm doing this and what I want out of life. And then value add investing, where you buy a property, or the BRRRR strategy, where you buy a property, renovate it, rent it out, and then pull the cash out to invest in the next property when you refinance it, worked for us.
I love that you looked at different strategies and you looked at the kind of lifestyle that you wanted and you married the two.
Right.
I know that a lot of people who leave the workforce to go into some kind of entrepreneurial endeavor, chase their dream in some way, often find that they're trading one thing for another thing,
Right.
and they're not really changing the lifestyle. So it sounds like you really have to take a full assessment if you want to make the decision like you did to say, what is the picture I really want to paint as a family and as a business owner, as an executive running your own real estate
Right.
business. What would you tell someone that is listening right now about figuring out what their picture should look like? What would be some tips that you might give them?
So the biggest thing for anybody who is getting started is any strategy is better than no strategy.
Okay.
So I see new investors. It's so easy to chase the shiny objects in real estate, and there are so many different ways of making money in real estate, right?
Yeah.
It's so easy to do that and growing in all different directions. And what that does is you grow an inch in 12 different directions instead of growing 12 inches in one direction.
Okay.
So the biggest piece of advice I would give anybody is to decide a strategy that would work for you and stick to it, and then put your blinders on, and you're going to have to decline a very profitable venture that doesn't fit your strategy, but that's what putting your blinders on means.
When do you reassess and say this strategy is or isn't working, or how do you start evaluating, okay, this strategy is really good, it's working for us, we also want to look at this? Maybe an example would be like to say, hey, we're flippers, but now we want to look at leveraging rentals instead of flipping, and maybe saying both strategies work. When is the right time to start looking at alternative options or additional options in that journey?
That's a really good question. For example, for us, now that we have scaled and we know how we're going to grow this portfolio further, we have considered other things. For example, we considered short-term rentals or Airbnb.
Yeah.
So there is something that we could consider. I am so much, committed.
Uh-huh.
I'm so committed to this strategy that I am 100% happy moving forward with the same strategy and learning how to grow this business even further.
Nice. Really, really cool. I want to fast forward now. You've been doing this for a while, and you're finding success in what you're doing. And a lot of people look at people that are at a stage where you're at and go, I could never get there. Tell us about some of the emotions and maybe fears that you had to overcome in this journey to take this leap. And then looking back, if you were to tell yourself, what would you tell yourself in that journey about taking the leap of going from the known of the career and into creating a new path? What would be the tips you would give someone?
So I would say that taking a risk is a muscle, and the more you flex it, the more you grow it, I guess, the more you build it.
Yeah.
I don't know, the stronger it gets.
Yeah.
And so I feel like stepping out of your comfort zone gets easier and easier the more you do it.
So it's a practiced habit that becomes easier over time.
Right. So I come from a risk-averse mentality.
Okay.
So for me, I had to learn it. Some people just have risk-taking abilities. I had to learn it. So for me, stepping out of my comfort zone to get comfortable with taking risks, what I started doing was assigning a dollar value to the risk I was taking.
Okay.
So I would say, okay, real estate investing is a risk to a certain point. I'm going to assign a number to it. If everything goes well, this is what the numbers look like. If things don't go right, worst case scenario, this is how much I lose.
Okay.
Am I willing to pay that much money to learn what I'm going to learn from this experience and take that risk?
Looking back, I'm sure you're glad you made those choices of risk?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
wish I'd taken more risks.
Is that something that you're doing more of now? Like, you're more comfortable to take risks that would have scared you really, like, in crazy ways a couple years ago? Is that easier for you now?
Yeah, I feel like the more risks I have taken, the more confident I have become in my own abilities to assess the risks early on. So I can take bigger risks knowing what I'm getting into.
We're going to start moving towards the end of this first segment, and we always ask 3 questions. The first one being, how are you finding purpose in what you do?
So, as an investor and as an entrepreneur, I feel like the only thing that stops me from growing more is my own limiting beliefs that I've imposed on myself. And what I'm working on right now is to be able to work through my limiting beliefs, to be able to dream and see a bigger picture and visualize a bigger future for us. And that's what I'm working on. So as long as I can dream it, I might be able to do it.
And what is the next big dream, idea, goal that you have?
So in the next 2 years, I would like to double our real estate portfolio and have my husband be able to join us in the business because we're both passionate about it, and he still maintains his full-time job.
We are going to be right back with Pollock and go deeper in this conversation. When we come back, we're going to talk about women in investing, how you can actually create your own strategy, and finding the motivation that's right for you. We'll be right back. Chasing big ideas and dreams can be overwhelming. Our vision is often vast, filled with possibility, and even the arrival point could be crystal clear. But what is the first step we take? How do we get from an idea and into action? That's where the Dreamer's Guide to Micro Experiments comes in. It's a completely free guide that we've created to give you micro steps, small steps, little experiments, making the journey fun of turning those dreams and ideas into reality. Best of all, like I said, it's completely free. All you have to do to get it, head on over to jumblethink.com. You'll see a little pop-up there. Put your email address in, and we'll send it right over to you. Dreams and ideas are awesome, but without action, they never become reality. So start the journey today by downloading your free guide to micro experiments. Start your first micro experiment and begin the journey of making those dreams and ideas real. Now let's rejoin today's conversation. We are back with Pollock. All right, before we get going, there is an important question that we've got to ask, and I'm sure you want to share. How can people find and connect with you?
So they can follow me on Instagram.
Okay.
Open Spaces Women. That's my, what is it called, handle?
Yeah.
Yeah, Open Spaces Women. And also on my website, openspaceswomen.com, we also have a free training on 4 pillars of scaling with value-add investing strategy.
Okay.
It's at openspaceswomen.com/webinar.
Okay. We'll have all of those links in the episode notes. So if you're listening, real easy to find. Just go click on the buttons are right below, or probably wherever you're listening. So just go click on them. It's easy. One of the things that most excited me about this conversation today is the conversation around women in investing. One, I don't know anything about it, so that's always interesting, and I'm a curious person, so I like to learn new things. Two, I think it's something that we don't talk about, and I don't know why. Probably it's just a conversation that people don't realize we need to have. And then the third reason is because you are not only doing this yourself, but you're actually helping other women to do it for themselves too. So let's talk about that a little bit. What does it look like to empower women to pursue investing and real estate investing more specifically?
Yes, that's a really good question. And I found out, I didn't know this until I got into investing, but I found out that we talk about the wage gap a lot, which is 78 cents on the dollar, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And what we don't talk about is that the wealth gap is 32 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
So for every dollar that a man invests, a woman is only investing 32 cents.
Wow.
And it's
and that's
staggering.
crazy because all that has to do with really is a choice.
It seems that way.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so that's a misconception there.
No, I would say to a certain extent it's true, but there are a lot of underlying factors.
Okay.
And we just have to, as a community, come together to change that. It needs to change. It's absolutely staggering that women just don't invest.
So what do you think some of those reasons are that women don't invest, especially in contrast to their male counterparts who have done that, and that's more of the norm. So where is that divide? What are those underlying currents that are stifling that? Or maybe just a couple that come to mind.
So the biggest one is, and I can speak more on the real estate investing specifically, is when I got into it, the thing that was the most intimidating for me is real estate investing still happens to be an old boys club.
Okay.
It is really hard for women to get into a field where there are no role models, where there is no support system, where all of the content and all of the knowledge base is geared towards their male counterparts.
Okay.
So the thing that was the most intimidating for me was to not find a role model and a support system that was
a mentor, a coach of your own.
Just to see somebody else doing it out there who had kids and who was, trying to be a mom and invest in real estate at the same time. So
I think one of the things for me, and again, it could be my own bias and misconceptions, and so please correct me if I'm wrong, but there were women out there doing it. Barbara Corcoran comes to mind, who's on Shark Tank, and there are other women doing it, but they were much more obscure. You just didn't hear or know about them as much, it seems like.
But look at the percent. Like, there are very few compared to men, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a gap there. So you are coming in now, and part of your passion not only is doing this for time with your children to help create income for your family, but it's also now a new mission to help women on this journey of discovering it for themselves. So talk to us a little bit about some of the principles. You talked about 4 pillars. Maybe you can mention that. That would be foundational to women who are going, you know what? I do want to break out of the norm. I do want to go down this road.
So the first thing I think is self-belief is more important than anything else when it comes to growth. And as women, we just need more of it because things are not really in our favor because there aren't enough role models, as I was telling you. And people talk about constraints when it comes to being an investor and scaling it in terms of processes and systems and capital. But the first and foremost is believing in yourself. And if you have any guilt about making money and building wealth, which women do, I will tell you that scaling a real estate portfolio is about having more time too. It's not just about the money. It's about being able to do what you want to do and spend time the way you wanna spend your time. And then the other thing is flexing that risk-taking muscle.
Yeah.
Because what I found as an engineer, I'll give you my own example. As an engineer sitting at a conference room table, I would not pitch an idea unless I was 120% sure it was going to work.
Wow.
And I wouldn't pitch an idea because I was only 90% sure, and I would find in meetings that there were other ideas being pitched by my male counterparts the chances of those working were around 60 to 70%.
Wow.
And as women, and there are a lot of studies on it, and we're conditioned to be this way.
Yeah.
And it's going to take work to get out of that mindset, to know that we don't have to be 100% sure, and we can still move forward.
Well, I think that if you look at guys, and if you were really being, if we were being honest, we have a lot of uncertainty. Arrogance is a mask of insecurity, actually, a lot of times for many. And the other thing is that as a society, we're conditioned to accept ideas that are similar to the ones that are already in place. So when you hear an idea that comes from a counter perspective, it doesn't seem as viable because it's counter to what we expect or know. I was just listening to an interview with a guy, and he was talking about, you see it in Hollywood, if you pitch an idea in Hollywood that's counter to the methods that always work, they don't want to take the risk because it goes against the trends.
The norm, yeah.
You see it in radio, you see it in newspaper, you see it in the kind of people we hire, that if it's outside of the convention, it's bigger risk, and if we take the bigger risk, there's a chance for a bigger loss. And so from the standpoint of, if you were talking to someone from the opposing side, and you say, these are the struggles that women specifically have. You talked about two here, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and then also the confidence kind of aspect of it. If you have a woman on your team, what are some tools that you would tell that person, whether it's a guy or a lady for that matter? Because I've also heard about women bosses being also incredibly harsh because of their insecurities as a leader, not wanting to fail, not wanting to look bad. What would you tell them about hearing the voice, whether it's a woman's voice or a voice that's counter to theirs, to help process through that idea so that they could get to an actual idea that can stand? Does that make sense?
That's a good question. I don't know if I'm really qualified to answer that. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, actually.
Well, let me ask it this way, then. You said that you came into a male-dominated industry through real estate investment. How were you able to stand and have your voice heard and make a dent so that you have a space for yourself there?
Oh, in real estate, this is why I love entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Because in entrepreneurship or investing, I am the CEO of my company.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to have my voice.
You don't have to answer to somebody else.
Yeah, that's the beauty of, the confidence I've gained by running my own company and by making my own decisions has been an amazing, eye-opening experience to know that I actually, when I am unsure of an idea and if I move forward, it's actually quite successful because I would only move forward if I'm at least 90% sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So building that confidence has been great, and being in charge of, my own business has had a huge impact on my own confidence.
As we move towards the end of the second segment, I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about coaching other women. That's something that you do specifically in the real estate investment. Talk to us a little bit about how you're helping women to find the same path that you did, to find the freedom for the lifestyles that they want to create by creating real estate investment business, a resource for themselves.
So we have Open Spaces Women Portfolio Program.
Yeah.
It is a 3-month immersive, it's a very intense, immersive program in which I take women from start to finish, learning everything from buying, renovating, renting out, and refinancing properties to build their own scalable rental portfolio.
Yeah.
And some of it is mindset, but a lot of it is knowledge-based.
Yeah. You only know what you know, and if you don't know how to get started, you don't know how to get started.
Right. And, and just I failed many times. I made many mistakes, as did every real estate investor. I believe nobody has never made a mistake. And I feel like if I can help them at least not make those mistakes, and give them all of the background that I didn't have, I had to gain all of the knowledge from multiple different resources. So if I can provide one spot where somebody can come in and just get all of the information they need, all of the things that I had to struggle through and how I found a path out of it, if I can provide all of that information to someone, they don't have to go out and reinvent the wheel.
Awesome. We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, we're going to do our rapid fire questions. It is hard to believe, but we are already over halfway done with our first ever themed week here at JumbleThink. Of course, it's a themed week all about real estate. You're listening to episode number 3 of this week, and we have one other episode with Alex Felice released a couple weeks ago. I'd love to hear what you think of themed weeks. If you'd like to see more of them, you can head on over to jumblethink.com and drop me a note there, or shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to hear what you think about Themed Week, and if you have a specific theme you'd like to hear some guests talk about. Now, next week, we have a killer guest on the show. His name's Robin Dreeke, and he is the former head of the FBI's Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program. He just released a book called Sizing People Up, a veteran FBI agent's user manual for behavioral prediction. Super cool book. Very fun topic. He also shares his story of being an FBI agent on 9/11 in New York City. It's pretty crazy, and the book's awesome. You're not going to want to miss that episode. So join us the rest of this week for our themed week all about real estate, 2 more killer conversations, and then next week with Robin Dreeke. Now let's jump into rapid fire questions with Pollock Shaw.
De votre main. Levez seulement le bras pour mettre l'aiguille sur le disque. Mettez le contact, reposez votre bras et attendez. Restez calme.
We are back with Pollock. All right. I know you're a little nervous, but are you ready for rapid fire questions?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, our first rapid fire question is, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So as a kid, I think I changed it many times.
Yeah.
But the image that comes to mind right now is when somebody asked me when I was a kid, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I don't know. I just want to make a lot of money. Because we lived in a 1-bedroom house.
Wow.
My dad passed away when I was 5. My mom was a teacher.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know what I want to be, but I know I want to make money.
What is one tip you give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
I would say that it's better to have a strategy, like I was saying before, than no strategy at all.
Yeah.
So if somebody's trying to just get started, I would say figure out why you're doing what you're doing, and how you're going to move forward to achieve that reason, and then just take a step forward. Okay. It's important to take the first step.
Yep. What is one change you would like to see in the world?
I feel like a lot of us have forgotten what it is like to give, whether it is as investors, whether we're new, whether we're experienced, and specifically being a real estate investor, I feel like the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah.
And what I would love to see is for everybody who enters this industry to already know that.
Yeah.
And just come in knowing that the more value I add, the more my business is going to grow.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I would like So legacy meaning, what would I like to teach if there was one thing I could teach my kids,
Sure.
I would I would like for them to know that you're in charge of your own destiny. Nobody else cares. You really have to understand that you have to make your own decisions and your choices and build your future.
Where do you find inspiration?
I think I've said it so many times. It's kids. All I want is to spend time with my kids.
Yeah. What's one book you think every dreamer should read?
Oh, I love the book The One Thing.
Okay.
And we have it on audio, and my husband and I have listened to it together. I've read it multiple times, and every time I read it, I get something out of it. By Gary Keller.
Okay. For you, how do you define success?
I would consider myself successful if I can grow to my fullest potential on my own terms.
What is one trend you're currently excited about?
Oh, I'm really excited about seeing this new wave of minority real estate investors come into this industry.
Yeah. What is one habit you find helpful in your life?
I'm very adaptive. If I decide to do something, I am really quick at realizing what personality traits need to change, and I can make that happen. I feel like that's been the most impactful thing.
What is one thing you wish you would have known when you first started out?
So, the biggest thing I wish I had known was that fortune favors the finance savvy.
Okay.
To grow a real estate business, I needed to understand financing.
Okay.
And I put it off for a while, and there's no way around it.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
I'm actually finally doing what I should be doing. So I'm very happy to be what I'm. So I'm very happy to be doing what I'm doing right now.
Our final rapid fire question is: what is one dream you are still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
One thing that I would like is for me to be able to have an even bigger impact. I feel like I have a lot of value to add, but my own limiting beliefs keep me from doing that. So the biggest thing I would like to do, one big dream I want to fulfill, is to be able to have a big impact.
So we wrap up. We always like to have our guests have a final thought. What is your final thought for us?
All right, so my final thought is if you are somebody new wanting to get started in real estate, if you're a woman who's intimidated by not having enough role models, it doesn't have to be scary. What's important is just taking the first step.
Paula, thank you so much for taking time out, sharing your story, inspiring us, and giving us some insights on how real estate doesn't have to be as scary as we make it out to be.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Once again, we want to thank Palak Shah for being on the show today. Make sure to head on over to your episode notes and take a look at what she is creating and connect with her. Super cool stuff. We also want to thank our friends over at PodMax for hosting today's conversation. They're doing awesome things, and if you're an entrepreneur, if you have ideas and dreams you want to share and how you're accomplishing them, you should check them out at podmax.co. There are many great takeaways from today's conversation with Paula. But for me, the message that came through clearly, and I hope you got it too, was that if you want to create the lifestyle you want, you have to make choices that sometimes can be difficult. For Palak, she wanted to stay home with her kids. That's such an incredible endeavor, such an amazing goal. It wasn't going to be possible with the job that she had in engineering. So what did she do? She created a new path that gave her the freedom to create the lifestyle she wanted so she could spend the time she wanted with her kids. For you, you may have a different dream, a different goal, a different idea, but if you are living on the terms of others, if you are stuck in a situation that doesn't give you the freedom to live the lifestyle you want, then you can't stay there. You have to make wild, crazy, and sometimes what look like foolish decisions to make the steps to step into the dreams and ideas you have. So that's my takeaway and challenge for you. What are the dreams and ideas you have? What are the things you want in your life? What is the lifestyle you want to create? Now you have to take crazy steps to find a path that works for you. It's your turn. Take a small step today, a step on that journey, a step forward to making the lifestyle you want. Get out there, dream big, and change the world around you.
En arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.